Well, I guess we're here again. It is I, your everyday average Bobcat Wolf and Son, doing what I do. It's been a while. I haven't seen anything so interesting as that last Daryl Brooks thing. That was so, you know, worth worth looking at. But I came across this the other day, and I found myself reacting in the same way that I was to the Daryl Brooks stuff, and I was like, well, I guess it's time for another time for another reaction. So let's see what we got.
Urge everyone to keep those principles in mind, starting with the fact that we won't talk over each other. And from there, we'll get through this. Ms. Merchant.
Thank you, Judge. How often did Mr. Wade visit you at a place where you were living between 2019 and 2021?
So you want to start with the lie that he lived with me in South Fulton in 2019, a home he's never been to? That's one lie you told in your document. No.
Judge, I didn't ask her about that.
Ms. Merchant, I want you to ask a very precise question. I think she's saying and answering that he did not live with her. So why don't we break that up into smaller parts?
And I didn't ask about living.
But you put in your, while we're talking about professionalism, while we're talking about professionalism, she put in 3 different documents he lived with me.
Full opportunity to respond.
And
filed that with the court.
In 2019.
He's never been to South Fulton. In 2019, I lived in South Fulton. He has never been to my residence in 2019, ever, not once.
In 2019, he's never been to your residence, any place.
I lived in my home in South Fulton before I started getting the threats that were here, a house I paid for with my own sweat and tears. I'm no longer able to live there. But in 2019, I did. And in the 2 months of 2019 that I knew Mr. Wade, 3 months, the beginning of October, all of November, and all of December, Mr. Wade never came to my house in South Fulton. Let me help you out. I lived there in 2020. He never came to my house in 2020, let alone live with me, as you put falsely in these documents.
They asked her a question, but it seems like she's trying to testify as like a witness when being asked a question, but let's go ahead.
In the first 3 months of 2021, when I could still enjoy my home, Mr. Wade never came to South Fulton, and it is certainly a lie that he lived with me.
So in 2020, so you said 2019, 2020. Did Mr. Wade ever visit you at a place that you resided?
He has never been to my home in South Fulton. 2020 was before I knew that a phone call was going to be made and I was going to have to abandon my home. As a result thereof, he never visited, lived at, came to, or has seen South Fulton.
You qualified that with your home in South Fulton.
That's where I lived in 2020.
In 2020, did he ever visit you at a place that you resided?
Okay. I don't understand. You're going to give me guys. In 2020, I lived in South Fulton.
Okay.
That's the only place I lived in South Fulton. That's before I had to abandon my home, Judge.
All right.
And at my home in South Fulton,
We'll
he never came there, okay? So if you don't come someplace, you can't live there.
Ms. Willis, I'm going to have to caution you. This is going to be the first time I have to caution you. We have to listen to the questions as asked. And if this happens again and again, I'm going to have no choice but to strike your testimony. So, we need to break this down. Ms. Merchant's question, I believe, was asking whether you lived anywhere other than South Fulton.
I did not live anywhere but South Fulton, Georgia in 2020. That is before I began my prosecution of this case, and it was my plan to only live there.
Did Mr. Wade ever visit you at the condo that you leased from Miss Yurdi?
He visited that condo, yes.
He did.
Yes.
Did he ever spend the night at that condo?
No.
Just visited.
Yeah, but he did visit for sure.
Did you ever go out to eat together, other than the lunches you talked about, during 2019 or 2020?
I would think that we probably went to lunch, but it wouldn't have been, let me think, 2019. I'm going to say, I don't know, I'm going to say we probably broke bread someplace in 2019. I don't remember it, but it seems like we would have broke bread sometime in 2019. So I'm going to say yes, although I have no recollection. But it seems to me like I go out to eat and drink with pretty much
Look at her
everyone,
body
so
posture.
I'm going to say yes.
I mean, you see that she's like, what happened to the audio? Hang on. What the hell? Okay, give me a minute. Let me see what's happening here. Entire.
District Attorney Fani, Fani. Last name is Willis.
Ms. Willis, how did you know to come into the courtroom right then?
There were people, I was pacing in my office,
Okay.
and I heard someone yell, "His testimony is done." It only made sense to me that I would be your next witness, and I've been very anxious to have this conversation with you today. So I ran to the courtroom.
I find it
So as soon
crazy
as
'cause
you heard that Mr. Wade was done testifying, that's when you just assumed you would be the next witness?
It only makes sense.
Did you listen to any of the testimony?
I've been in my office pacing, ma'am.
Did you listen to any of the arguments?
I did hear the arguments this morning. It's ridiculous to me that you lied on Monday, and yet here we still are. And I did.
this woman's a DA, and she acts like she does not know how this process works. It's kind of frightening.
Listen to that argument.
All right, so that was it, just the argument, no testimony.
Right, I listened to the argument this morning where Adam Abadi, I thought, did an excellent job pointing out how dishonest you were with the court on Monday. And I'm actually surprised that the hearing continued, but since it did, here I am.
Great. So let's just talk about what you did in preparation for today. Did you meet with Mr. Wade at all? Once the motion was filed, did you meet with Mr. Wade and talk to him about the motion that I filed to disqualify you?
On this first January motion?
Yes.
I don't know if you could say talked about. I probably had some choice words about some of the things that you said that were dishonest within this motion. So I don't know that it was a conversation. As you know, Mr. Wade is a Southern gentleman. Me, not so much.
Okay, but my question was, did you have a conversation with
I didn't
him?
have a substantive conversation.
You did not?
I read this motion, skimmed it more so, and I've probably said some choice things to him about some of the lies that were told.
Okay.
And been printed in the media because, we used to be in a day and time where you had 60 Minutes and people did stories and they verified information, and you had this great reporting. But it seems today that a lawyer writes a lie and then it's printed for all of the world to see.
Well, I just want to make sure that you answer the question I asked, though. So my question was,
Overruled, Mr. Abadi.
I told you what happened. I read the motion. I am sure I told him what my opinion of it is.
Okay.
And past that, we had no substantive conversation.
you did not. Okay.
Is there something you didn't understand?
No, I just wanted to make sure that
Okay.
you did not have a meeting with him in the conference room to discuss the
All
motion.
right, next question,
No.
Ms. Merchant.
So in the conference room of my office within this week, you produced some financial document. That financial document was given to me, something, and I'm not even sure who's given it to.
Right, so she alleged that he lied on oath, under oath, so let's...
Back, under your testimony, you would have said that she had also entertained you. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
And so your answer to this interrogatory is false, is it not, sir?
No, it's not false.
Well, hate to dance around the... the answer is yes, you did entertain Miss Willis, correct? Right?
Yes.
She's not your spouse at that time or any time, correct?
That's correct.
She's not related to you by blood or marriage, correct?
That's correct.
But you entertained her, right?
Yes.
And during the course from your marriage, the period of time up to the present, so the answer would have been, yes, I did entertain somebody, correct?
During the course of the marriage, no.
Mr. Wade.
Mr. Gillen, I think we've made our point. I think it speaks for itself, and we can save that for argument.
I'll just follow up with one quick question. Do you understand what the word present means?
Your Honor, I was going to ask you this.
I think we did cover that already as well.
Okay. Now, what has happened from the time that you filed this court document in May of 2023, let's go over some of the things that you had been involved in terms of being entertained or entertaining. Prior to your filing on the answer on the interrogatories on May the 30th, 2023, we've already established, have we not, that you had paid for a Royal Caribbean cruise to the Bahamas with Miss Willis, correct?
Yes, sir, with Miss Willis and my mother.
Well, your mother's not part of this interrogatory. I'm talking about Miss Willis, okay? So you paid and caused to be paid approximately $3,335 on that trip, Bahamas trip, from October the 28th through October the 31st, correct?
Your Honor, objection. I think we've touched this ground several times already.
Mr. Gillen, let's cover new ground.
Well, I'm just trying to establish with specificity the things that he had done to entertain or be entertained prior to May the 30th, 2023. I'll try to move through it
Sure.
quickly.
Well, that's already part of the record in terms of his prior testimony, and so if you want to link those two things together, you can do that during argument.
Well, so let me discuss this. You indicated that during the course of your explanation concerning the Belize trip, that Miss Willis paid you all that money back in cash. Remember?
Yes, sir.
Now, the Belize trip had just happened, hadn't it? That occurred in March 18th, 2023, right?
Yes, sir.
So you're filing this maybe 2 months after you have gone to Belize with Miss Willis, correct?
Your Honor, again, I believe all of this is our...
I think you might be getting somewhere new. We'll see.
All right.
Yes, sir.
So we've got the trip in to Belize on March the 18th, 2023. You and Miss Willis, correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, 2 months later, you file the interrogatories that speak for themselves that we've gone over a few minutes ago, correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, the March the 18th, 2023, to state the obvious, is before May the 30th, 2023. Will you agree with me on that?
I do.
Okay. So then you tell us that Miss Willis paid you in cash all the money for the entire trip. It was a gift for you for your birthday, correct?
Yes, sir.
And I'm sure you probably have the deposit slips where you took the cash and deposited the cash into your account, don't you?
I did not deposit the cash in my account.
You don't have a single solitary deposit slip to corroborate or support any of your allegations that you were paid by Mrs. Willis in cash, do you?
No, sir.
Not a single solitary one.
Not a one.
Now, when Miss Willis would pay you in cash, would you scamper down to the ATM with her and as she drew money out of her account
Your
to
Honor.
pay you these thousands of dollars?
Mr. Gillen might scamper, but there's been no evidence that Mr. Wade does. I object to the phrasing, the argumentative nature.
On that issue, overruled.
Did you and Miss Wade scamper down to the ATM machine and have her draw out? For example, on the Belize trip, just on your payment would have been $2,794.
Miss Wade,
For clarity, yeah, thank you.
Pardon me?
Miss Wade and I didn't go to Belize.
No, excuse me, Miss Willis. I'm sorry. Did you go down to the ATM with Miss Willis while she drew out $2,794 to pay you in cash? That you did you go to the ATM with her?
No, sir. She didn't go to the ATM. She carried the cash.
Oh, and so she would give you the cash. Did you have a little place in your house where you just stack up all this cash that you apparently got to repay you for these benefits that you bestowed on her?
And Mr. Gillen, if I answered that, I'm putting myself in jeopardy. If I tell the world that I have cash someplace in my home, don't you think that could be problematic?
No, I don't. I want an answer as to whether or not you have a little cash hoard in your house where you have allegedly taken the money that you got from Mrs. Willis and went and put it somewhere. Where'd you put it?
No, sir.
Now, just put it on the hip and kind of walk around money?
Did I put it on my hip and
Yeah, just walking around money where you would spend cash yourself?
Let me finish. Did I put it on my hip in Belize and walk around with
No,
it?
when you got paid back, would you take the money, the cash that she gave you, and would you just carry it around with you for spending money around town?
So we have to break down each trip because, for example, for the cruise, she paid me the money before we took the cruise. So I was here and I could put the money in my pocket or put it away wherever I wanted to do with it. Other trips, she would give me the money there. So at that point, I could either spend it or put it in my pocket or put it in the hotel safe.
There's no special place that you would have all this cash that you would be getting from her that you've told us about to pay back for the benefits that you have bestowed on her?
The only special place that cash would have gone would have been to one of my children.
Okay. Now, are you aware, have you discussed these pleadings with Miss Willis?
No, sir.
So there's been no discussion between you and Miss Willis about the allegation concerning the benefits that you have bestowed on her? Is that correct?
The phrasing, the benefits bestowed upon her, I don't believe that's an accurate reflection of the testimony, and I don't think that's an appropriate question.
I think overruled. You can answer the question.
Okay. When you said proceedings, are you talking about the divorce proceedings? Because we were talking about the interrogatories. To that question, the answer is no. If you're at, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead with your answer. I'll hear the complete answer, then I'll follow up.
Okay. If you're asking me,
I'll be honest with you. I think this the attorney who's questioning him in this proceeding is kind of like not with it. I think he sounds old. He sounds out of, I don't know. He just doesn't sound like he's got all his facts together.
about this hearing, the proceedings of this hearing, have we discussed the financial piece based upon Mr. Roman's motion? Yes.
So you have discussed the financial piece. Where did that discussion take place?
Conference room.
Were you other people there, or were you and Miss Willis discussing this about what your position was going to be?
The relevance of this.
Well,
Mr. Gillen?
and the relevance has to do with suddenly we have a declaration from Mr. Wade in this case, where he says roughly equal, and then shows one alleged payment by Miss Willis. No mention of cash, none. So I need to find out a little bit more about how suddenly we have this revelation about cash from the witness stand today.
All right. Overruled.
So we part company there when you say no mention of cash. If I provided one receipt that didn't amount to what you would think was roughly equal, the rest of it is cash.
Well, did you in your declaration, sir,
What?
it was filed
What?
in this case,
What?
did you tell the court in that declaration that the expenditure that you had provided on behalf of Miss Willis was paid for back by her in cash, yes or no?
I believe that I did when I said that the expenses were split roughly evenly.
If you could point to me any place in your affidavit where you use the word cash, I would appreciate it. Take your time.
I didn't use the word cash. No, sir.
No, you didn't use the word cash, did you?
But I didn't say that she didn't give it to me in cash.
No, you just didn't tell anybody that you allegedly got paid back in cash, right?
No, I told everyone who asked.
Today.
Yes, sir.
Now, who else was with you?
Oh, he said today. Oh my God. He's indicating that this information that this guy has been withholding. Oh boy. I expected this to be a little more stupid and more explosive. I apologize for not being more prepared. I saw her testifying, and it was a nightmare. And seeing the behavior from her, from a DA, was just not something I would have expected. Anyway, I'm gonna take a break. I'm just gonna go ahead and end this stream, and I'll pop another new one on.